Okay, so you're interested in longevity, right? I mean, who isn't? And you're probably wondering if this NAD plus thing is legit or just another wellness fad. Well, we've got this article here that breaks down the science and the hype surrounding NAD plus.
Yeah, what's really interesting is
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I was just going to say it's cool how the focus has shifted from just living longer
Yeah.
to extending our health span. Those years we live in good health.
Exactly. It's about quality, not just quantity.
Right. Absolutely. But before we get too far ahead, let's rewind a bit and talk about the basics. Why do we age in the first place? What's
Yeah.
actually happening at the cellular level?
Well, think of it like wear and tear on a car.
I like that.
Our cells accumulate damage over time. Some of it's from the outside world,
Like what kind of things?
sun exposure, pollution, even just the stress of everyday life.
Right, right. And then there's damage from the inside, too.
Exactly. From the inside, it's like a double whammy. Cells
So,
replicate, they go through their natural life cycle, but that process can cause damage too. So it's not just about wrinkles and gray hair. It's a much deeper process happening at the cellular level.
precisely. And as that damage builds up,
Things start to go wrong.
yeah, cells start to malfunction.
Hmm.
They struggle to replicate correctly. And that's when we see the increased risk of all those age-related diseases.
Like heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's.
The whole scary bunch.
Okay, so I'm starting to connect the dots here, but where does NAD plus fit into all of this?
Well, the article describes NAD+ as a coenzyme, which is basically like a tiny little helper molecule
Hmm.
that's crucial for keeping our cells running smoothly.
So what does it actually do? What are these crucial tasks?
Oh, it does a lot. It helps with DNA repair, keeping inflammation under control. And it even plays a role in energy production in the mitochondria.
Mitochondria, those are like the powerhouses of the cells, right?
Exactly. That's them.
So NAD plus sounds pretty important. I wouldn't want to be running low on that stuff.
And that's the thing. Our NAD+ levels naturally decline as we age.
Oh no.
Really? Yep. And that decline could be a major contributor to all those age-related issues we were talking about.
So the big question is, if declining NAD plus is linked to aging, could boosting it slow the process down? Is that the idea?
That's what researchers are trying to figure out.
Hmm.
It would be amazing if we could just pop an NAD+ pill and turn back the clock.
Yeah, that would be a game changer.
Right. But unfortunately, it's not that simple.
Why not?
Well, the article explains that taking NAD+ directly isn't very effective because it's poorly absorbed by the body. And it's not really practical either. You'd need injections, which, let's face it, not many people are keen on.
So needles are out, so how do we get more NAD plus if we can't just swallow it?
That's where these things called NAD+ precursors come in.
Precursors, like what?
The article mentions two main ones, nicotinamide riboside, or NR,
Okay.
and nicotinamide mononucleotide, or NMN.
NMN, okay, got it.
These are molecules that our bodies can convert into NAD+. And the good news is we can take them as pills. Much easier than injections.
Okay, that makes sense. So have scientists tested these precursors? Do they actually boost NAD plus levels?
They've done a lot of research, especially in animals. Like there was this study where they gave NMN to mice for just a week,
Oh.
and they saw improvements in muscle function.
Hmm. Interesting. But mice aren't people.
Exactly. That's the big caveat.
Hmm.
We have to be cautious about extrapolating results from animal studies to humans. It's not always a one-to-one translation.
Of course. So are there any human studies on NR and NMN?
There are a handful, and the results so far are kind of a mixed bag. Some studies have shown that NR supplements can increase NAD+ levels in middle-aged and older adults,
Hmm.
which is exciting because it suggests there might be a benefit for heart health.
So maybe not a fountain of youth, but maybe a shield for our hearts.
Possibly.
Hmm.
There's also some evidence that NMN supplements might improve insulin sensitivity in postmenopausal women with prediabetes.
Okay, that's promising.
Yeah, and a 2022 study hinted at potential benefits for cholesterol management, although the effects weren't statistically significant.
So lots of maybes and possiblies. It doesn't sound like there's concrete proof that NAD plus is this anti-aging miracle some people claim it to be.
You've hit the nail on the head. Despite some intriguing findings, no human study has definitively shown the kind of life extension benefits we saw in those worms.
Right back to those worms.
They're a fascinating case, but we're still a long way from saying the same thing would happen in humans.
I see. And I couldn't help but notice that the article mentioned how NAD plus has become a bit of a buzzword in the wellness industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even with limited scientific evidence, NAD+ has been seized upon by certain corners of the wellness world.
Like what kind of things are we talking about?
You've got NAD+ supplements popping up everywhere, but remember, they're not regulated by the FDA, so there's no guarantee of purity or consistency.
It sounds like a buyer beware situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then you've got celebrities promoting NAD plus Avi drips, which can cost a fortune.
Drips.
Oh, yeah. And let's not forget those high-priced NAD plus infusion treatments offered at luxury wellness centers. It seems like everyone's trying to cash in on this longevity craze.
It makes you wonder, is this just clever marketing preying on our desire for a quick fix?
It's a valid question for sure.
So if we're not supposed to jump on the NAD plus bandwagon just yet, what does the article suggest is the best approach to longevity?
Well, this is where the article brings us back down to earth. Instead of chasing miracle cures, it emphasizes the importance of those tried and true strategies for maximizing health span. You know, those years we live in good health.
You're talking about the basics, right? Diet, exercise, all that stuff.
Exactly. The article specifically mentions healthy diet, regular exercise, not smoking, and managing stress as the cornerstones of a long and healthy life.
So the boring stuff actually works.
It might not be as glamorous as a miracle molecule, but these lifestyle factors have a mountain of evidence backing them up. They're the foundation of long-term health and well-being.
It's like building a house. You need a strong foundation before you start adding all the fancy features.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So yeah, diet, exercise, stress management, those are the foundation. And maybe NAD plus is like, I don't know, a skylight or something.
A skylight.
Yeah, a nice addition if you've got the basics covered, but not essential. And even then...
We're not even sure if that skylight is really going to make the house that much better.
Exactly. More research is needed to see if it's worth the investment. And speaking of investments, you know what I find interesting?
What's that?
The article doesn't really talk about the potential downsides or risks of NAD plus supplementation.
Oh, that's a good point. It focuses on the potential benefits, which, as we've discussed, are still being explored. But it's important to remember that any substance that can impact our biology could also have unintended consequences.
Right, and that's especially true since, as we mentioned, these supplements aren't regulated by the FDA, so there's no guarantee of purity or consistency in what you're buying.
Yeah, buyer beware, for sure.
Yeah.
Do your research, talk to your doctor, and approach any supplement with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Always a good idea.
Okay, so we've established that NAD Plus might have some potential, but it's not a guaranteed fountain of youth. And even if it were, it brings up a whole other set of questions.
You're thinking about the ethical implications.
Yeah. What would it mean for society if we could significantly extend human lifespan?
That's a huge question, and one that the article hints at but doesn't fully explore. Imagine a world where people routinely live to be 150 or even 200 years old.
Wow.
How would that change our perspectives on work relationships, retirement resources? The implications are mind-boggling.
It's a lot to consider.
It really is, and it highlights the need for a broader conversation about longevity, one that goes beyond the science and delves into the ethical and societal implications.
So it's not just about scientists working in labs. It's about engaging philosophers, ethicists, policymakers, and everyday people in a dialogue about what kind of future we want to create.
Exactly. This is a conversation that needs to involve all of us.
It's exciting and a little bit scary all at the same time.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
We're entering uncharted territory, and we need to proceed with both enthusiasm and caution.
On the one hand, the possibility of extending our healthy years is incredibly appealing.
Absolutely.
But we also need to consider the potential consequences and make sure those benefits are accessible to everyone, not just a privileged few.
That's a crucial point. Longevity shouldn't just be for the wealthy or those with access to the latest technology.
Right.
It's about creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to live a long and healthy life.
I love that. It feels like we're on the cusp of something truly revolutionary, but it's going to require more than just scientific advancements.
What will it take?
A shift in our thinking, a willingness to grapple with complex questions, and a commitment to creating a future that benefits all of humanity.
Well said. It's a reminder that while the pursuit of longevity is fascinating, it's ultimately about so much more than just adding years to our lives.
It's about living those years to the fullest with vitality, purpose, and connection. And maybe, just maybe, those goals are more attainable than we think, with or without a magic bullet.
I like the way you think.
Thanks. All right, well, I think that's a great place to wrap up this part of our deep dive into NAD+ and longevity. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Great. We'll be back soon with more on this fascinating topic. But for now, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on NAD+ and the quest for a longer, healthier life? Share your comments below, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.
Yeah.
It really does make you think about all the choices we make, right?
That's
and
right.
how they impact this whole invisible world inside ourselves.
It's like this secret conversation happening at a microscopic level.
Exactly. And we have more power over that conversation than we realize.
That's a cool way to think about it. Reading this article, I was curious about something. Does it say anything about whether certain lifestyle choices might actually speed up that decline in NAD plus levels?
That's a great question, and I think a lot of people are probably wondering the same thing. The article mentions that NAD plus declines naturally as we age,
Right.
but could certain things accelerate that decline?
Yeah, like could we be unknowingly sabotaging our NAD plus levels?
It's definitely possible. While the article doesn't get into specifics about which choices might have the biggest impact,
Right.
it does make sense that those same lifestyle factors that contribute to overall cellular damage.
The usual suspects.
Exactly. Poor diet, lack of exercise, chronic stress. All those things we know aren't good for us,
They probably don't do our NAD plus levels any favors either.
right? It's all connected. We tend to think about these lifestyle factors in isolation, but they're all part of this intricate web that influences our health and how we age.
So it all comes back to taking a holistic approach.
Exactly. It's not just about finding a magic pill or supplement. It's about making those everyday choices that support our well-being at a fundamental level.
Which brings us back to this whole NAD plus thing as a potential longevity booster.
Right. The research is definitely intriguing. There are some promising findings. But we have to remember, we're still in the early stages of understanding how NAD plus really works in humans.
It feels like the science is still playing catch up with all the hype,
I agree with that. There's a lot of excitement around NAD plus.
especially in the wellness industry.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But we need more solid evidence from long-term human studies before we can make any definitive claims about its anti-aging effects.
So for now, should we just hit the pause button on the NAD plus craze?
I wouldn't say hit the pause button entirely, but I would definitely say proceed with caution. Don't throw out all those healthy habits just yet.
Don't ditch the broccoli for an NAD plus IV drip just yet.
Exactly. Stick with the fundamentals for now. That's your best bet. A healthy diet, regular exercise, stress management, not smoking,
The boring stuff.
the boring but effective stuff. And in the meantime, stay informed about the research on NAD+. New discoveries are being made all the time, so who knows what the future holds?
It's a rapidly evolving field for sure.
Absolutely. And even if NAD+ doesn't turn out to be the longevity miracle some people are hoping for,
Right.
it's sparking some really important conversations about aging and longevity. And it's pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
And that's always a good thing, right? To question, to explore, to push those boundaries.
Exactly. It's what drives progress, and it's what keeps us engaged and curious about the world around us.
Speaking of curiosity, something that really struck me while reading this article was
What's that?
those ethical questions we touched on earlier. What would it mean for society if we could actually significantly extend human lifespan? Like, what if people routinely lived to be 150 or even 200 years old?
Wow. Yeah, that's a big one. It's a question that deserves a lot more attention than it's currently getting.
It's mind-blowing to think about all the implications, right? Like, how would it change our perspectives on work and relationships, retirement, the strain on resources, the
It
planet?
would be a completely different world. And I think it's crucial that we start having these conversations now, before these technologies become a reality.
So it's not just about the science. It's about engaging everyone in a dialogue about what kind of future we want to create.
Precisely. This is a conversation that needs to involve everyone. Not just scientists and policymakers, but philosophers, ethicists, everyday people. We all have a stake in this.
It's like we're on the verge of something truly transformative, but we need to approach it thoughtfully and with a lot of careful consideration.
I agree. It's an exciting time to be alive, but it's also a time for reflection and dialogue. We need to figure out how to navigate this new landscape responsibly and make sure the benefits of longevity are shared equitably so that everyone has the opportunity to live a long and healthy life.
I love that idea, that longevity shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a right.
Exactly. And I think that's a good reminder that the pursuit of longevity is ultimately about something much bigger than ourselves.
It's about creating a better future for everyone.
Well said.
It's like we're at this crossroads with all these amazing discoveries about aging. It's both exciting and a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're on the cusp of something big, like we're rewriting the rules of aging.
And it's easy to get swept up in all the excitement, especially when you see those headlines about potential breakthroughs and miracle cures.
Oh, absolutely. But that's why it's so important to stay grounded and to approach these things with a healthy dose of skepticism.
You're saying we shouldn't believe everything we read?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to be optimistic and hopeful, but it's also important to remember that science is a process. It takes time to sort out the facts from the hype.
So how should people navigate all this information? especially when it comes to something as complex as longevity?
That's a good question. I think one of the most important things is to focus on the fundamentals. Those tried and true lifestyle factors we keep coming back to.
Diet, exercise, stress management.
Exactly. Those are the things that have consistently been shown to have a positive impact on health and longevity.
So you're saying don't abandon those healthy habits just yet?
Absolutely not. They're your foundation. And they're likely to be far more beneficial than any quick fix or miracle cure.
It's like building a house. You need a solid foundation before you start adding all the fancy features.
Exactly. And in the meantime, stay informed about the research. Read articles like the one we discussed today. Talk to your doctor. But don't get too caught up in the hype.
So what about NAD plus specifically? Where do you think the research is headed?
It's hard to say for sure. The science is still evolving. But I think there's definitely potential, especially as we learn more about how NAD plus works in the body and how different lifestyle choices might affect its levels.
It's like we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to discover.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so exciting. There's a sense of possibility, a feeling that we're on the verge of something truly transformative.
I feel that too. It's like a whole new world is opening up.
And even if NAD plus itself doesn't turn out to be the longevity game changer some people are hoping for, I think it sparked a really important conversation.
About what it means to age and how we can live longer, healthier lives.
Exactly. It's not just about adding years to our lives.
Yeah.
It's about adding life to our years.
I love that. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. It's not about chasing immortality. It's about making the most of the time we have and living each day to the fullest.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of NAD plus and longevity. It's been an incredibly insightful conversation, and I think we've all learned a lot.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this deep dive informative and inspiring. And remember, the quest for a long and healthy life is a journey, not a destination. So keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep taking care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.
See you then.